In this video, I'm going to show you how to dump PlayStation BIOS files from a PlayStation Classic. The PlayStation Classic is honestly just the worst. Sony, why? Why'd you do this? You had great hardware, you had great aesthetics, and then you screw the pooch with your software. But whatever. This thing sucks unless you hack it. But one nice little thing that did come out of it is it gives us an easy way to get legit PlayStation BIOS files that we can then in turn use on other emulation projects to get a better experience than the PlayStation Classic could ever deliver. And in this video, I'm going to show you a very easy way to do so. Let's dive in. The first thing you're going to need to do this tutorial is a PlayStation Classic. Yes, you kind of need the hardware to dump the BIOS files from, so if you don't own a PlayStation Classic, you will need to get one. And it shouldn't matter what region, this should work for every region PlayStation Classic, so just grab whatever one is the cheapest if you don't happen to have one already. The next thing you're going to need is a USB 2.0 flash drive. The PlayStation Classic's USB ports have very low power draw, so using USB 2.0 is highly recommended, as most USB 3.0 drives draw too much power to work. I have personally had a lot of success using PNY USB 2.0 drives on the PlayStation Classic, and I am using one of those today in this tutorial. The last thing we need for initial prep is to download AutoBleem. This will also work with Project Eris, but I find AutoBleem to be just so much more straightforward, so it is my preferred method here. But you can head over to the AutoBleem repository, go to Downloads, and find AutoBleem 0.9.0, click on that. Then scroll down to the bottom and choose a download link from your preferred service here. So I'm just going to grab the one from Google. And then I'm going to download the AutoBleem.zip. Once you have AutoBleem downloaded, just get it extracted. It's in zip format, so any decompressor should be able to do this. Windows by default should be able to do this as well, but just get it extracted to somewhere on your computer. Now our next step is to get our USB drive inserted into our computer and formatted to FAT32 to use with AutoBleem. So by default, most USB thumb drives come formatted as exFAT these days. If they're above 32 gigabytes, that is. If they're under 32 gigs, they should already be in FAT32, and you could automatically format them to FAT32. It's pretty nice. But if you have a larger capacity one, like I have a 64 gig one here, it comes with exFAT, so I need to manually format this to FAT32. And unfortunately, you just can't format things to FAT32 by default that are above 32 gigs. So instead, you need to use a program like GUI Format here to format your flash drive to FAT32. There will be a link in the description below to download this program if you need it. But just run it. And it should pick up your flash drive. Make sure that you have your flash drive selected, otherwise you might format another drive. It only detects external storage, so you don't have to worry about it formatting any of your internal hard drives, but just double check that you have the right drive selected before you hit that start button. But this will format it to FAT32, and we need to change the volume label here to Sony, all caps. If you don't do this, it won't be detected by the PlayStation Classic. And once you have these options set, go ahead and hit start. If you get an error here saying that it can't do it, make sure that you have all of your file browsers closed, because if you have any of them open, it will break this program. It's kind of fickle. But once the format's complete, just go ahead and close out of GUI format. And now we can open up our flash drive. So here's mine, Sony, 60 gigs free. And we're just going to put it over here for a second. And now we're going to open our AutoBleem folder. And you should see a bunch of files and folders and stuff in here. Now all we need to do with these is drag them over to the root of our USB drive. So just select them all and plop them right into the USB drive. Unfortunately, USB 2.0 is very slow, so I'm going to skip ahead till this is done. So once those files have finished copying over, we can go ahead and take the USB thumb drive out of our computer, and we're going to move over to the PlayStation Classic side of things for a minute. Alright, so from here, we're going to get our PlayStation Classic set up just as we would normally, so just plug in the controller, plug in video, and then take your USB flash drive and plug it into controller port number 2 here. And once you have that placed, we could go ahead and connect our power cable. Fun doing all this with one hand. And once that orange light turns on, we're ready to power on our PlayStation Classic and load up AutoBleem. Now you may notice the power light on your PlayStation Classic flashing between orange and green. That is normal, and what you want to see, honestly, means it was working. And then you just kind of have to sit around and wait for a little bit for it to finally load into AutoBleem for the first time. This process can take a bit, so again, just be patient with it. If it just boots into the normal PlayStation Classic loader, then you have a good indication that your USB drive isn't compatible and you need to try another one. But once AutoBleem boots successfully, like you see here on the video, you can just press A to tell it to scan for new games, and then press start to go to AutoBleem. And at this point, you're actually done. It has dumped all 3 region PlayStation BIOS files to your USB drive, so we can actually turn off the PlayStation Classic, take the USB drive out of port 2, and put it back into your computer. And now when you load up your USB thumb drive, we're going to go into the Retroarch folder here. Scroll down, find the folder that's named System. And inside of it, we have 3 new PlayStation BIOS files, SCPH 5500, 5501, and 5502. So Japanese BIOS, American BIOS, European BIOS. So just take all of these out of that folder, and you have successfully backed up your PlayStation Classic BIOS files to use on your personal emulation projects. So for example, if you wanted to use these on Retroarch for PC, you could just install Retroarch on PC, and then you could dump them into your Retroarch system folder. And I already had an SCPH 5501, but whatever, I'll replace it. There we go. And then I could just load into Retroarch, download a PlayStation Core if I haven't done so already, and then I could just load into some PlayStation games. And there we go, a perfectly working PlayStation 1 BIOS dumped from my PlayStation Classic. But there you have it, dumping your BIOS files from a PlayStation Classic. And after you've set up an AutoBleem USB stick, you can also do so much more with the PlayStation Classic itself, like adding in your own games, replacing the crappy version of PCSX Rearmed that is there by default, as well as adding a multitude of other systems able to be played on it. Honestly, putting AutoBleem on a PSClassic is the only way to make this system worthwhile to me personally, but hey, to each their own. So as always, if you happen to have any questions, feel free to ask me down in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to try to help you out. But now if you could all do me a huge favor, and please be sure to hit that like or dislike button, just depending on how much you like today's tutorial. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that sub button so you can see when new videos just like this go live. Really goes a long way to helping out the growth of the channel, and we are super grateful to all of you for that. We're very close to hitting so many of our goals, and that is thanks to each and every one of you that watch these videos. If you'd like to further help support the channel, you could also check out that join button here on YouTube or the Patreon link in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. A little really goes a long way to keeping this place up and running, as well as funding new projects, kind of like this one, for all of you. And just a huge shout out to all of our current champions who have been backing us. You guys are freaking rock stars. We appreciate you all so much. Just thank you for believing in what we do here. But that's going to do it for this one. So until next time, my wonderful internet peeps, stay awesome, and we will see you all back next video.